Good evening and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. My name is Louis Mendez. Hope you guys are all good on your Thursday evening. This is the big match preview. On tonight's show, we'll be looking back at Tuesday's 1-1 draw with West Bromwich Albion, and of course ahead to Saturday's home game with Wrexham at the Valley. Joining me to do all of those things, first up, top right with his massive personality, is Nathan Muller. Hey, dear Nath.
I'm very good, mate. Thank you. Nice to see all your faces. Mark shaking his head. He knows the score, doesn't he? But it was a nice little chat before the pre-show in the green room, shall we say?
Yeah, and we can see Nathan's in a new location, which we're all very excited about as well. Also, bottom right, just finally got in from work at the last minute, is Mark Newbury. How you doing, Mark?
I'm all right. I'm curious. Is that a new location? Is he burgling somebody and he's just plugged into their Wi-Fi? He's just doing it from random houses now.
Yeah, well, we've been trying to get Ben to do that at different courses during the season. Also, bottom left is Tom Walling. How you doing, Tom?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I'm still tired after getting in at 3 a.m. from West Bromwich Albion on Tuesday night, but that's by the by. So, as I said, tonight's show, we'll look back at that game with West Brom. We got a point from it. I think that's the overall underlying best thing about it is we didn't lose. But we'll hear from Nathan Jones. We're going to hear from Lyndon Dykes, and we will look ahead to the Wrexham game coming up on Saturday. We've got Nathan from Rob Ryan Red joining us later on in the show as well. I want to hear from you guys as well. Good evening to everyone in the chat. Sam says he's looking forward to a first 3 p.m. kickoff since mid-January at home. For Saturday against Wrexham. Ben saying we're starting to enter the corridor of uncertainty. Will we reach the points for survival or not? Where's a big German leg when we need it? Well, we'll find out over the course of the rest of the season, won't we? But give us your thoughts on Tuesday's game. 1-1 draw. Lyndon Dykes with a leveller for us in the second half. You can email us studio@charltonlive.co.uk. You can tweet us at Charlton Live, or you can head over to the comment section on our live stream and put a little message in there like plenty of you have already done. Nathan, we're going to hear the goals in a few moments' time. Chris says that you're dressed to start an AI or a crypto company currently. I don't know which one you're going for. But yeah, the point was the best thing about Tuesday, definitely, along with the excellent goal we scored. Up there with one of the worst performances of the season, particularly in the first half. But I mean, how do you sum that one up? It was huge that we didn't lose that game, and overall we didn't. So I mean, there's plenty to complain about from Tuesday, but I ain't massively complain about the result because we got away with one a little bit there.
Yeah, exactly that, mate. I think the result would have taken it before the game. The performance left much to be desired, to be fair. Difficult, really, because when you see the starting lineup, you look at Miles and Dykes and the midfield that we have, and you're going, oof, it's going to be a slog, which is fair. But I think we started that team, I could be wrong, started that team against Leicester and done very well, albeit against 10 men. So there's not a lot of fluency in our play when we play that way, but we have to play to our strengths at the moment, and it's a lot of aggression and, a lot of direct passes, or long passes, people want to call it that. So yeah, we sort of knew what was going to come, and when they took the lead, it was a bit, how are we going to find something? With the bench that we have, what are we going to find? And we managed to get something in the end. But yeah, I mean, I'm still, even though it was very hard to watch at times, I'm still fairly positive, for the rest of the season and us getting to that 50-point mark with the fixtures coming up. I'm not saying I'm totally comfortable, but I'm still feeling very positive, and hopefully we can get there.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll play a bit better getting there between now and the end of the season as well. But let's have a listen back to the goals then from Charlton TV. Brownie was alongside Tell up at the Hawthorns.
Right-hand side, the West Brom right. Moet with it. Sends it in. It's a deep one underneath the crossbar. Header comes in. Oh, it's gone in. Campbell, I think, with the header. And West Brom over the lead just before half-time.
That's a free header, and everybody wanted somebody else to take responsibility for that flight path and go and win it. And I guess that's what happens when you take one of your main headers off and there's a little confusion on maybe who's picking up who. Maybe that's the issue. But nevertheless, you expect someone to grasp the flight of the ball and take responsibility and at least try and make an attempt. Very, very unusual to see a free header at the back post and Charlton find themselves behind. And to be honest with you, it was a case of could we keep a clean sheet, because we've done absolutely nothing as an attacking side in this match so far. And now questions will be asked of the players on the pitch and Nathan Jones. He's going to have to change what we're doing out on that football pitch second 45, because we've not mustered up an opportunity of any note as far as I can remember. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tel, but we find ourselves behind in a game that has been not a great deal of quality.
To the right, and Ramsey, Clark further right, wants it straight away, doesn't want Ramsey to wait this. Instead, Ramsey tries to pick out the ball of Dykes. That's a lovely touch from Lyndon Dykes. He's into the penalty area and he finishes! That's an outstanding goal from Lyndon Dykes. The ball from Ramsey, when Clark was screaming for it on the right, was inch perfect into Lyndon Dykes. He took a touch into the penalty area and slotted it through the legs of O'Leary to bring Charlton back level.
Oh, that makes life very, very interesting, because you're going to see some panic in the stands here at the Hawthorns, and I honestly can't understand why a centre-half would try and play offside in that situation. You're winning the game. You've had one shot against on target the whole night. You've been in control, and you inexplicably decide to squeeze up at a moment when you should drop, and that's allowed Dykes to break the back line. The first touch was exquisite. He gets his head up, and as the keeper comes out, he drives it through his legs, and Charlton are level. But that's criminal from a West Bromwich Albion defensive perspective. But credit to Ramsey and the run from Dykes, the touch and the finish. 1-1.
That was a massive, massive goal for us. Big point in the end, keeps us 7 points above the drop zone mark. As a means to an end, I mean, at no point in that first half did it look like we were going to score. When we went behind, I was quite concerned, because for large spells of the second half, it didn't look like we were going to score. I think we'd had one sort of 2-minute spell of pressure midway through the half before we then did score with that ball from Ramsey to Dykes. I mean, it's a huge point. And if I think they say that the measure of a good team is that you pick up points when you're not playing well, but I don't think you can quite use that for us. But we have picked up a point with not playing well on Tuesday night.
Yeah, that was literally one of the poorest games I think I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot. But I mean, I'm going to take something which Joe in our group had said. It said that Nathan had set the team up not to lose rather than to win. And when we conceded at half, just on the half-time thing, you're thinking, okay, right, now we have to change it. Now we have to try and be a bit more proactive. And, you know, fair play. He made the 3 subs straight away. To a certain extent, I like Fev. He's got a weird run. You know, for a winger, he's got a very weird run. And the way he hit the ground as the ball flew over his head from Ramsey was hilarious and a great finish. But I think we did get away with one, because in the last minute, Fairham, young lad they've got on loan from Villa, the shot he had from outside the area, which just went past the post, and Kaminsky was literally rooted watching it go past. And I think my heart literally is still halfway out of my mouth when I saw that. So, yeah, beforehand, we knew we couldn't really lose it, because we didn't want to give them anything. So you take a point all day. You're right. You know, it's unfortunately we're just scraping points, and you can say, well, if we scrape 10 more draws in the next game, that'll be enough. But you know, something has to change next season.
Yeah, I mean, that this summer will be very, very interesting, assuming we stay up, which I still think we will, and how much progression we're able to make in that summer transfer window. I mean, that will be a big talking point as we get towards the end of the season, Tom. I mean, how concerned were you by Tuesday? You know, do you look at it as well? We're going into, you look at Portsmouth last week and West Brom on Tuesday, and we've played two sides around us and really not performed, and obviously only got 1 point out of the 6, or do you try and take a positive that it's a couple of games in a row we've gone away from home and picked up useful points, come from behind in both of them, and they're showing battling spirit, which they will do all season with this lot. They're always gonna battle and try. Sometimes the quality's certainly not been there, and it wasn't really on Tuesday in spades at all. Really, it was poor on Tuesday. I think Nathan Jones puts his hands up and says that as well, but does it concern you when we're playing like that, or are you just thinking, look, let's just get to the end of the season, pick up as many points as we can, and see if that's enough?
Yeah, I don't really care, to be honest, about how we play at this stage in the season. I think I'll obviously be made to look very silly if we go down, but I think there's at least 3 teams worse than us. And I'm not saying this because I'm a Nathan Jones apologist or because I think he can't do any wrong. I think the tactics are strange. I don't think we need to play as direct as we are. I think there's people in the comments saying, look, Dykes looks great with his feet. I always think Miles looks better when he holds the ball up with his feet as well. So why are we going long? And I think that's part of it. But largely, I don't really care. You know, it's our first season back. We're not going to be trouble in the playoff places anytime soon. So our only goal this season is to stay up. And these tactics, ugly as they are just gradually grinding us over that finish line. It looks like, as I say, I'll be made to look very silly if it doesn't. So I don't really care. Is it fun to watch? No. Am I enjoying it? Not particularly. But all I want from this season now is to survive. And as the other boys are saying and people are saying in the chat, then it becomes a massive summer. I don't want to be watching this sort of stuff again next year. I'm not saying I want us to be top 6 next year. Well, obviously, I do want us to be top 6 next year, but I'm not expecting that necessarily. But I want to see some progression in terms of making our way up the table and in terms of playing style. And I think we've got the players to do it. You look at the goal as a perfect example. That Ramsey slide rule ball through the middle, a really, really intelligent pass, brilliant touch by Dykes, first of all, and then a decent finish. You don't have to lump it long all the time. That's not the only solution. I agree we need more creativity in midfield to do that a lot of the time. I think the Cody Carey Doc midfield sets us up to be gritty away, and I understand that. But why someone like a Rankin Costello or somebody else isn't coming in when we're playing home games to give us a bit more fluidity and a bit more bite in that midfield and a bit more quality on the ball, I don't really understand. I love Doc. I've said that consistently. But he's not there for quality on the ball. He's there to do all the dirty stuff off the ball. So there's work to be done for sure. But I think that work has to be done in the summer. Like, what are we going to do? There's no point knocking it around like Barcelona for the next 10 games and then potentially getting picked off. I think now we just do what we need to do with the players we've got and we regroup in the summer. And I think it's going to be enough, like you're saying. So, no, I'm not concerned. I'm not worried. But if we go into the start of next season in the Championship doing the same, I might feel very differently.
Yeah, John says, I love Nathan, but thought we were poor on Tuesday. We need to be more flexible in our approach based on the opposition. Mike said Tuesday's game was the luckiest point we've taken this season, but it's a positive one. Gary said the similar, fortunate when we weren't at our best, we'll take it. Dan as well, who got lucky on Tuesday to snatch a point, but we will take it. We started with the 2 forwards again with Miles and with Lyndon Dykes up top. So I'm trying to work out, and we'll hear the interviews in a minute, because I asked both Nathan and Lyndon, well, how do they get them more into the game then? Because it was so clear that the ball went nowhere near any of them in the first half, it felt like. And when we fed Lyndon Dykes with a bit of quality in that second half, it was a lovely little finish, actually, you have to say, from him. So Nathan, you're quite, tactics and stuff. So why does the ball get nowhere near him? Is it the wrong partnership? Is it because we're playing them and they're both aerially good that everyone else just thinks, I'll just lump it up there? Do we not have the quality in midfield to actually play through the thirds and actually feed them enough? Do we need to get the wing backs involved more? How do we actually get the ball? Like, is it the wrong partnership? Is it the wrong midfield? Is it the wrong tactics? How do we make sure that we don't have more games like that first half on Tuesday night where we were giving up a lot of possession, which we do, it does happen, but we were not good on the ball at all. We didn't have an out ball. We couldn't play through midfield. We couldn't get the ball anywhere near Miles Lieburn or Lyndon Dykes.
Yeah, I just think there's loads of things. When we watched it all year, and there's a lot of people who said we just need to try and be effective of what we do. I mean, if you're going to play that way, I mean, it can work, but if you're going to go, I wouldn't say we just lump it. Obviously, they want to play the percentages where they'll go long and try to pick up the seconds and stuff. But really, it's only Sonny Carey that's going to do that. You don't have anyone else coming from a deeper position like a Rankin Costello would do, or maybe a Luke Berry or someone like that. It's literally, if it's not pinpoint, then it's not going to work, because Lyndon Dykes isn't one that's going to reach a flick on from, say, Miles, for example. With a midfield three of Cody, Doc and Sonny Carey, again, it's not really a midfield that will dominate possession and are technically amazing. Whereas Carey's more of a driver, isn't he? And Tom's already said Doc's more of a hustler and a harrier. And Cody's just that sort of solid player that predominantly, even though he can play in the middle, has played at centre half. So we're not blessed with attacking flair in that outfit. So it doesn't surprise me that we're way down in the league in terms of chances created and shots on goal and whatnot. But I think it's just a case of we never know. It might be some players are not brave enough to get it in the middle of the pitch. But I think that's the question: is it are they being told to go forward quickly? Let's pick up the second balls and just play the percentages, or are we literally going? Is Nathan going right? Let's try and knock it about a bit, and we're just not doing it. And I think that's the thing that we need to try and solve. But I think the summer's a big one, as we've all said already, is how we then evolve. Because it's an evolution process, as Nathan keeps on saying. How do we then evolve to try and get possession, try and control games, try and be a little bit more fluid in our attacking phases? Because there wasn't really a lot of that on Tuesday. So I think there's many different facets, but I don't think it's the partnership. I just think there's it's the balance between attacking and defensive units in our starting 11 and squad.
Dom says, once again, Jones sets us up so that we have no threat in the opposition half. Why is he so afraid of us scoring a goal? Spam says, we aren't going to play any passing football with Cody and Doherty in midfield. It's a attritional grind every game. Suck it up. We did score a really good goal, Mark. Nice. I mean, we're going to hear from Lyndon later on in the show, but Ramsey's ball through was, it was so out of place with how, he played the ball forward. It was so out of place. I was going to say along the floor, but it was just about far enough off the floor that Fev had to duck underneath it. But it's funny, isn't it, how you always say in the Championship, you fall asleep at the back and you get picked off. And when we always say that, you always think about it as other teams doing it to us, but we actually did it to someone. They left Lyndon a little bit open. They tried to play him offside. It was a great goal, and it was very much out of keeping with what we've seen for most of the evening. You're on mute, Mark.
Sorry. No, you're right. It was a bit of a weird pass because it seemed to be about 2.5 foot off the ground for about 30 metres before it's sort of like he's got control of it. And again, great finish. And it's exactly the same finish you'd expect if Godden had taken that pass. If one of your young ones had taken it, possibly Miles, if he's in a good form, would have finished it as well. But that's the advantage you've got of getting an experienced head in, and he didn't panic. He knew he had to hit it hard and low, straight between the keeper's legs. I think we just missed an opportunity when Lloyd went off. When you've got a centre half like Cody already on the pitch, surely it gives you drop him back and then drop someone like Kov or Rankin Casello into midfield. And then, you're going to probably might get a bit more drive to it. Not saying, bringing Sajenji on was a bad thing, because I thought he, came on, did well and put in a couple of really good tackles, very, quick across the back line and passes the ball well. But I'm just thinking there's a missed opportunity. And like I say, I think if you look at, I've seen West Brom quite a bit this season, and I've seen them, lose games where they should have absolutely won. And players like Mowat, I've always liked, tidy, neat, organised. And whether we've just got too many of the same type of player, and we know when Sonny's on it, he can be great, but when he's not on it, he can be a liability. And I don't know do you know if Ebby Fuller's got an injury? Because someone like that, we don't seem. At the start of the season, Jones was saying, he can do really well, and once you get in, and then we can't drop him. And then we've not seen him since. He's not even making benches. And I'm just thinking someone like that who can be exciting and drive on with the ball, is what we're sort of like missing. So I just think we just miss that energy of some of these young players have. I'm not saying we should be knocking it around Barcelona style, but, we've got to get goals from somewhere. And we can't be reliant on keeping a clean sheet sometimes. So we have to be able to have that threat. And you look at the team and you think, is there that much of a threat? Okay, brought TC on and okay-ish, but he knows now he's going to get marked out of games because they know he's a threat, the opposition. So, I've seen West Brom play better. So, but sod them. They can go down.
Well, yeah, obviously they sacked their manager Eric Ramsey after the game as well. Let's have a listen to what our manager said after it, because there's a couple of bits that came out of it, and let's hear my interview now with Nathan after the game up at West Brom. Nathan, was important not to lose tonight, and you didn't.
Yeah, and that's a positive. I mean, look, we had a real disruption before the game, getting here really late, which we don't know if that affected us or not, but the first half performance was really poor. I thought we were poor first half. We weren't aggressive. We didn't pass the ball well enough. We every time we played forward, we gave the ball away, and then we invited pressure, and we didn't really take the game to them. We gifted them a goal from a set play because we don't concede many from set plays, and that's a poor goal to give away, and I'm really disappointed with that. But second half, I thought we were better. We were better when we changed shape. And we looked more of a threat. We had a little bit more control in the game, and defensively we looked better. Scored a good goal, which I'm really pleased with. And as you said, it was important tonight that we didn't get beat. It's a second point on the road. Two tough places to come. This for a different reason, but it shows what a good point that Saturday was. What Southampton have done tonight and won 5-0, and it shows what a good point that was for us.
And it was a moment of real quality that got you that point, the finish and the ball through from Ramsey as well.
Yeah, it was probably the only real bit of quality we showed all night, and that's the frustrating thing, and I want us to show more quality. I want us to be front-footed. I want us to be so much, but we didn't today. We didn't show that, and we were passive for so much of the game, and we'll have to look at that, because I said, that can't happen. Maybe they need a bit of a rest, because we've had 2 away games, and Saturday took a lot out of us. Defensively we had to work hard, and then we've had to come into a massive game tonight. These have had 2 home games, by the way, and we've had 2 away games, so they looked fresher than us. And as I said, but it's really important we didn't lose the game. And look, regardless of who we're playing, a point on the road in the Championship is always a good one.
A friend of mine told you that the coach had broken down. He saw the team walking towards the ground. Can you add any more onto what happened there, and how far did they have to walk before the game?
It didn't break down.
Oh. What happened? Was it a roadblock, or?
Let's just put it down to the fact that we were disrupted significantly before the game. We had to walk to the game, which we won't accept from now on.
Is that an internal club thing or an external
thing?
We'll
deal with that.
Okay. In that first half, you mentioned you weren't at your best for sure. I mean, Lyndon and Miles up top on their own, the ball didn't seem to get anywhere near them at times. Is that the midfield? Is that the front two?
That's everyone. I mean, what we didn't do it. We thought when we play with 2 up top, we want to go in with quality. We want to pass it through with quality, and then have 2 up top. When we can counter attack, we leave 2 up top, but. And then we can play in and we can counter quick, but we didn't do that at all. We had to change shape at half time. Then we changed shape again in terms of going to a 4. And that was real disruption as well. But we handled that very, very well. But we didn't show enough quality today. It takes bravery to get on the ball away from home and to find your front ones. And it's brave to play 2 up top, because not many people do that. But we didn't do that with enough quality today, and that's something we have to look at.
There we go. That's part of my interview with Nathan Jones after the game on Tuesday night. The rest of it's on BBC Sounds or on the Substack pod as well, if you want to listen back to that. Mark, the delay getting there. So it was a bit of confusion. So someone told me before the game that the coach might have broken down, but they'd seen and that was sort of the suggestion when I was asking, trying to work it out. But obviously we didn't have the full story. It sounds like they got caught in some sort of traffic. Now, Nathan wasn't really giving much away other than it hadn't broken down. I'm guessing if we've got caught in traffic, then maybe there's someone to blame for losing. That's in my head. Nathan's like, well, someone's in trouble and we'll deal with that internally. That's my guess based on what he said. This has happened before away at Reading last season with the I'm raging off my nut situation. The post-match interview, that was part of it. I'm fairly confident someone left the club not long after that. So it's not an excuse, but he did mention it quite early on in the interview, didn't he? So it is a very, very strange one, that one.
Yeah, but sorry, I had a 10-minute walk to the ground. I've got a 10-minute walk to my bus stop. I then don't get to work and then not start cooking for 20 minutes. It seemed like a really poor, whether he's throwing the driver under the bus, literally, for choosing or turning up late or taking the wrong route. But it happens. It happens to all clubs, generally. It has happened to them. It's happened to the Premiership this season. So it's one of those things. It did seem to be an excuse thrown out quite early, because it seemed to be right. So not getting to the ground on time, was that why we kept lumping it up and it wasn't sticking in midfield? it seemed a bit of when he's being even more mysterious about it. I mean, I did like you were very brave to keep poking him to say, "Go on, tell me, I want to know, tell me." And I thought he'll remember that in interviews to come with you. So I'm not telling you about the bus. It's one of those things. You just deal with it. I mean, the game kicked off at the right time. I can't tell me if they weren't warmed up. We managed to keep a clean sheet for 44 minutes. So it seemed odd to bring it up and almost make an issue of it, or whether it's just using that to deflect from the game a bit, which, other managers do as well. They bring up stuff which you're thinking, well, how is that relevant to the game we've just watched? So, in the scheme of things, it's not relevant. It's a bit of a smokescreen. He'll move on from it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like they got there half an hour late from where it was a 10-minute walk, but by the time they got there, they were half an hour late. So, I mean, that will eat into sort of preparation time. Normally, when the players get there, they'll go for a walk around the pitch for a bit. Every club's very similar, and then they'll be in the dressing room for a bit. And so it does affect that a little bit. But it just was a very, very strange situation, and Nathan not really wanting to give much away. I asked him about the Lyndon Dykes and Miles Lehman and how they didn't get the ball to him, and it's still like, it feels like every time, maybe I can't remember if it's 4 or 5 games we've started that pair now, Tom, but the only time it worked was away at Leicester. Every other time, Derby at home, I think Portsmouth at home, like it just didn't look right. And we just don't have the quality through the midfield to get there. So he's talking about the bravery of playing the 2 strikers, which is fine, but we've got to find a way to feed them. I think it comes down to the midfield, really. We're just not playing the ball through the midfield anywhere near consistently enough, or at all, if we're being honest.
I think the strikers have to take some of the blame as well, because they could try and get more into the game, a bit like Nath was talking about earlier. But I think a large part of it is the midfield and the style of play. And as Nath said earlier, and I said the past couple of weeks, it did work against Leicester. I know it was against 10 men, but it did work, and both of them looked excellent. The problem is in these other games, even when they are getting the ball, they just don't look very good. Apart from that 5 seconds where Dykes takes the ball down expertly and finishes, which is a brilliant goal. The players, just as individuals, look poor. I saw someone in the chat a little bit earlier mention Kelman, and there was a bit of back and forth about him. I don't understand why he's sort of been frozen out's maybe not quite the right word, but he's getting little cameo appearances. I think TC's impact off the bench recently, or playing partial games, has been really, really good. And I like to see that. And he's playing in a much more, still not a natural position, is it? But I'd much rather have him up front for 45 minutes than at left wing back for 90. So I like that. And obviously we did that first half, didn't we, against Southampton? And I thought he did well. And actually when Miles came on with Lyndon back end of Southampton, there was a little bit of an improvement there as well. So I don't know. All of the strikers individually, I quite like. I like what Kelman offers when he gets an opportunity. I think Lyndon Dykes been a breath of fresh air since he came in. We know what Miles is capable of. Maybe not at this level yet, but we've seen it in League One when he's on his day. He's very, very difficult to play against. Same with Kelman. Okay, again, he's had to make a step up. And Godden. Godden obviously had not had much opportunity this year. But these are players, a lot of them making their step up. I know Dykes has played at this level, but not scored a lot of goals. I know Godden's, I think, played at this level before. But largely they haven't. So they're being tested above and beyond. And we've said this consistently in recent weeks when we've been down. Our squad is nowhere near the level of the teams we're coming up against. The team we come up against Saturday, they've got Premier League budget, I would imagine, if not more. Like, it's ridiculous, the money that we're coming up against. And we're coping. We're not in the bottom 3. We are sort of in a relegation scrap, but we're certainly not where we could be. We're not where Leicester are. We're not where West Brom are. We're not where Oxford are. So I still think we're punching above our weight at the moment. And again, I go back to the fact that it's not pretty, but we've just got to get over the line. I do think longer term, the midfield needs a shake-up. I can't see Nathan ever really deviating from this formation. So then you look at the likes of TC and it's, well, what does he do? He either moulds him into a permanent striker or he has to go and play his football elsewhere. Same with Fevrier, really. He comes on, he does okay at wing back, but same with Apter. Like, why did we sign him? He wants to play as a winger. We don't play wingers. So there's some big decisions to be made in the summer. I was looking through the list of players we've got on loan out and about. I'm not going to talk about the youngsters because people love to talk about bringing them back. But, the likes of Ghassan Ahabme still out on loan. Like, we need a big clear out yet again. And we need to prepare properly for a decent Championship squad, because I liked the business we did in summer. It was definitely an improvement on what we finished last season with, but it's still nowhere near the level of lots of the teams we're coming up against. So, yes, midfield plays a part. I think the strikers have to take some responsibility as well, but it's all over the club. We've done okay. We look like we're going to get over the line, but then there's work to be done to build on that.
Yeah, Stuart says he thinks Kelman has been a waste of money, says he's a League One level player. Joe says Fevre has shown some good glimpses, but the central midfield is still a problem. We need a creative central midfielder. Disappointed we didn't sign one in January, definitely after Nibs' injury. A couple of emails as well. I mean, Chris is talking about how many points we think is going to be needed. He's doing the points per game thing, which obviously was what I enjoy to do. He's saying currently Oxford probably 40, which I mean we're already on 40. West Brom 47, Leicester 48. So it does feel like we're going to have to aim for 49, 50 points. So what's that? 9 more points for us? 10 more points for us? It's doable. That's why we're in a good position. The table's we're in a decent position. I mean, I think we will generally have to play a little bit better than we did on Tuesday. Brian says we've got 2 more points at this stage compared to the 1920 season, but then we only picked up 9 points from the 12 games that followed. He says there was 9 games after the restart, went down by 1 point with 48 points. So, well, there we go. We got to be careful not to go down with too many points, haven't we? McSquared said it was an invaluable away point on Tuesday. It was not great viewing, and the first half performance was dire, but at least we came back and did what was necessary to shut out the opposition. After that, we did far better after the attacking subs were introduced, and then Dykes came up trumps yet again. He's seeing Saturday's game against Wrexham as a free hit because everyone's expecting us to get turned over. But yeah, he's saying hopefully there's no half and half scarves. And Philip says that we should change our nickname to the good, the bad, and the ugly. Who knows what team is going to turn up next season? Nathan will need to change the style so that we can progress. This will need heavy investment in the squad, so the owners need to dig deep so we can move forward. This season was always going to be hard coming up via the playoffs. Always a great show. Thanks for that, Phil. Lovely stuff. Right. Well, it'll be interesting to find out if this man's going to be part of us next season, because Lyndon Dykes scored our goal on Tuesday evening. I was able to have a really long chat with him on Tuesday. I've cut down to just hopefully the important bits that you can listen to now. This is what he had to say after the draw with West Brom.
In the end, a good point. I think the game itself was a bit scrappy, especially first half. We didn't show our full capability, but at the end of the day, we take the point. It was a better performance second half, and we threatened a bit more and looked a bit more like ourselves. So yeah, we take the point and then we move on.
Lovely striker's goal when you've had the ball paid through and you're through 1-on-1 to slot it through the keeper like that. Must be quite pleased with that finish.
Yeah, really pleased. It was a great ball from Kano, great movement. Obviously going, just wanted to hit it low, and was really happy to see it hit the back of the net because we needed it as a team. I think it lifted us a little bit, and obviously for myself, I'm really enjoying it here, and I'm feeling really, really good, and especially in front of goal.
The goal came at a good time, ironically, as well, because obviously Charlton had gone in behind at the break and took a little while to get going in that second half, but a vital goal in the grand scheme of things tonight.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said before, especially the first half, we weren't ourselves. They done well on the ball, but I think it was from more us. We could have done a lot better on the ball to make them defend more and make better opportunities for ourselves, and then we can see the sloppy set piece goals with 5 minutes until the half time. So, but we showed character, same as last week. We went 1-0 down, and we turned it around. The manager, credit to him, he changed things quick, changed the shape, and it seemed to work second half. And so we have to keep building on that. It's a good point. We wanted to get 3, but at the end of the day, we can't always have it our way, and we have to move on to big games coming back at home now.
Is there a sense of frustration in that first half for yourself and Miles? Because it felt like the ball either wasn't getting to you, or if it did, it wasn't there for long. Like there wasn't that much attacking play from Charlton. As a striker, as a pair of strikers, how do you change that? Or do you need your teammates to get the ball to you more? How does it work when you're out there?
Yeah, it was difficult. I think obviously we work on things on the training ground. We weren't quite executing that. It's a team thing, me and Miles, we work well together, but today just wasn't really clicking. The movements need to be maybe a little bit sharper from our end, and then the balls coming up to us need to help us, and with runners as well. Pitch was quite open. It felt very disjointed, but football isn't perfect. It's it changes all the time, and sometimes you play good, sometimes you don't. But it's about turning things around and taking the moments when we need them, and we've done that tonight. And it's a great point on the road. They're fighting for their lives as well, and yeah, so we have to take the positives out of that.
You talked about settling in at Charlton. Obviously, been here a while. How have you enjoyed your spell here? You've got, was it 2 goals and 3 assists? I think now Richard was just saying. So it's been a good return, a good start. How are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I'm loving it. The manager's great. The boys are great. I've settled in when I first came in. Settled in really quick, and I'm really enjoying my football here. I wanted to get back playing minutes, and currently so I am doing that. And obviously, my goals and assists is nice to see as well. But yeah, I'm just putting my head down, trying to work hard, and at the end of the day, I want to do my best for Charlton and then see what happens in the future.
Has there been conversations about what will happen in the future with Nathan? Has either's party sort of expressed a desire for this to go on beyond the end of this season?
No, nothing yet. I'm just focusing game by game. Obviously, coming in at January, I signed until the end of the season. So I'm sure maybe there was something will happen, and a conversation will happen before that, or maybe in the summer. But at this moment in time, I'm just focused on playing, focused on performing myself, and then what happens from there will hopefully happen.
PSF Steel Limited is a trade supplier of steel fabrication and erection services to the new build, construction and refurbishment market in southern England. With their unrivaled depth of experience, they excel at providing their customers with high quality and cost-effective steel fabrication solutions. Their customers include national and regional house builders, such as Barratt Homes, Bellway Homes, the Vistry Group and Taylor Wimpey. They pride themselves on their service-based ethos and commitment to customer service excellence, which includes full technical backup and on-site services and support. If you would like more information, go to www.psfsteel.co.uk. That's www.psfsteel.co.uk.
Hello fellow addicts, I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the river. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview. Just before the break there, we heard from Lyndon Dykes. Isaac said it was a proper politician's answer, that, when I asked him about perhaps extending beyond at the end of his short-term contract with us here to the end of the season, of course. But Gary says he's been a great signing. Spam says he's been so good, he's a legitimate contender for player of the year. Well, hopefully he can make another stake towards that as he plays on Saturday against Wrexham. Massive game at the Valley. We've all got a half and half scarves out, and hopefully our guest has got one as well. Nathan from the Rob Ryan Red Point pod joins us now. I hope you're doing well, Nathan. How's it going? Have you got a half and half Charlton scarf?
I couldn't think of anything worse to have bought there. That or Mark Goldbridge doing the live stream. I'm still working out which one was worse on the day.
Well, they were both interesting choices last season, but yeah, I don't think we've got a live stream this year anyway. But if not, I'm sure you'll survive. How's it going with Wrexham? Obviously, came up with us last year for the first sort of third of the season. It was sort of a running joke that we were above Wrexham and Birmingham. Things have changed slightly since then. You've massively improved as the season has gone on. How have you found your first year up in the champ?
I mean, very fun. It's quite easy. No, I'm not going to say that. But I think for us, it was like gelling the whole new team together. We got 13 new players in, and then added a couple more in January for extra depth, and just took a while for people like Nathan, and it also took a while for the fans to get on board with the new players, because you got to think that we'd moved on from Elliot Lee, Paul Mullin, Ollie Palmer, people that were cult heroes, getting us out of the National League. And I think I do think a factor in our kind of slow start was partly the players gelling together, but also partly this massive chasm between the fans and the players. They're just, even players who were working quite hard, there was accusations they weren't trying very hard, and they're hard to like and this and that. And obviously when you start winning games, everything gets smoothed over, and isn't this the greatest team ever? That's the thing now. It's this is the best Wrexham team ever in the history of football. So no, it's been good of late. Since Boxing Day, we're the number one team, so I can't come on here and have too many complaints, can I?
Hello, Nathan. Another Nathan, just to make this podcast even more confusing with Nathan Jones in charge. But obviously Saturday, the focus is naturally going to be on Kiefer Moore, especially he's top of the league in terms of aerial duels won, followed by our centre half in Lloyd Jones if he makes the lineup. So obviously, aerially, it's going to be key for that game on Saturday. But I was looking at the stats earlier, and it's only away from home. It's only Sheffield Wednesday who have lower shots per game than Wrexham. So I mean, I suppose to get from our point of view on a Saturday, what can we expect that's different from Wrexham from the reverse fixture at your place? Because your sort of passing styles doesn't really change when you look at stats at home and away. It's just that, are you a little bit more pragmatic away from home and sort of sit in? So what can we sort of expect from that?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I was at Bristol City away, and we were very kind of pragmatic there. We dominated the ball, which was very rare for us, to go to a playoff contending team. I think what to expect is that it might not be Kiefer that starts, which at the beginning of the season when we met was kind of, we had to have Kiefer in there. If Kiefer didn't play well, we weren't going to win the game, probably 9 times out of 10. Whereas now Sam Smith's come into his own. Sam Smith started the other night against Portsmouth. He is more of a threat in behind, so he's not going to give you kind of the physical battle. He's not going to win all the aerial duels, but obviously away from home, the expectation is teams will have that onus to attack, and there is more space for the likes of Ollie Rathbone, the likes of Sam Smith to run in behind. The problem we have now is, to be pragmatic, you need a pretty solid sort of defensive midfielder. We've lost both of those to injury. No Matty James, who's a player of the season contender for us. Ben Sheaf is now out for the season. He got injured against Ipswich. So we're basically pinning all our hopes on George Dobson's sort of Freaky Friday with Ben Sheaf and turned into a defensive midfielder, which, as much as we love George Dobson, that is not really what he is. So a lot of people up here are very, very intrigued to see how we line up in midfield. Do we add an extra body in there rather than just having the two? Or do we just trust Dobbo to put in, probably one of his best performances of the season, which we'll probably need?
That leads quite nicely onto my question, Nathan, which was going to be about Dobbo. I see he signed a new contract or a contract extension with you this week. And funnily enough, we did tend to play him in that sort of 6 defensive midfield shape. So I think he's played a lot of games for you this season, it looks like. And how's he been, and where is he playing for you, and how's he sort of adapted to the Championship?
He's been good for us. He has adapted really well. Like at the beginning of the season, he was probably our best player. Then Matty James kind of took that mantle on, and Kiefer as well. But Dobson's played great, you have to say, for someone who hasn't got a lot of experience in the Championship. I would say, I'm chuffed for him to get the contract extension. Do you think a 2-year extension when you're potentially, a good run away from the Premier League is an interesting choice? But, those are very, very first world problems, I understand. So I'm going to stop myself right there. He's been good, but he's been more of like a number 8. He's been more of kind of very box to box and have someone next to him that can take a lot of the defensive responsibility. So I think when you haven't had Sheaf there or you haven't had James there, he's looked a little bit more exposed. In the game against Portsmouth the other day, I think we lacked any real control. Portsmouth probably unlucky not to get anything there. When Sheaf goes off against Ipswich, again, him and Lewis O'Brien can't seem to work out who is going to sit in there. I just don't think it's either of their natural game to just sit and screen in front of the defence like it was for Sheaf or for James. So just taking a bit of adapt. And I know you said you guys played in there, but for us, he's never really been that deepest line midfielder. So it'd be a real shift in how we use him.
Hey, Nathan. I'm just looking at your fixtures. I mean, obviously, after us, you've got Chelsea in the Cup, but you've got to play Hull, Swansea, the low Welsh derby, Sheffield United, Birmingham, Stoke, Oxford. You've got a couple of gimmies in West Brom and Oxford, but your last 2 games, Coventry and Middlesbrough, who are both possibly going to be going for that top spot. Do you think if you finish, say, top 6 in the playoffs or just out of the top 6, because it always seems to be that every week they're saying about Parkinson's going to go. Do you think that if you don't make it to the playoffs this season, that they'll use that as an excuse to turf him out and try and get someone in for next season and just try again? Or do you think, they'll stick with him and say, right, we can just build on this season? Because, this is a foundation season for us, but yourselves, your priorities are probably, with the glamour which follows you, there's probably a little more pressure to do a bit better, as it were. Yeah. So do you think he's still going to be there?
I'd agree there's more pressure for sure, because we've spent a hell of a lot of money, and you guys haven't. So inevitably, you are expecting better results. I think Phil Parkinson, at the beginning of the season, I thought maybe he'll be on the hot seat, if we don't make it. then Rob and Ryan gave an interview recently where they basically put it in layman's terms that Phil Parkinson is at Wrexham for as long as he wants to be at Wrexham. And, they are so indebted to him. They even said he's got a job for life, which was a little bit silly a quote. But I mean, it basically emphasized what many people have heard locally, that he is going to have that job for as long as he wants it, and he will leave when he probably decides to. And whether he eventually decides that, it won't be this season. Look, we're on course for our best ever finish in our entire club history. If we finish in the top 14 places, which at this stage you would like to think we are going to finish in the top 14, that'll be our greatest ever finish. So there's no way that Parkinson, even if we miss the playoffs from this position, will be disposed of and replaced. He's built a squad. And also, if you think in the National League, when we didn't go up the very first season with Parkinson, we then went on and got that record number of points the following season, and he used the squad he built the first time round. If we go into next season, we haven't made it up, we've already got those 13 players from last summer and should only need to, in theory, add a couple of pieces. It should be the very similar group, and we're doing well with that group now. So, no, I actually think he's under no pressure whatsoever, even if we miss out on the playoffs, which would be disappointing. I would be really gutted by that, but ownership, they couldn't be happier.
Excellent stuff. Right, Nathan, cheers for your time. I always say good luck for the rest of the season after you play us, of course. So hopefully we'll put a massive dent in Phil Parkinson's future on Saturday, but then maybe you recover after that. Cheers for your time this evening.
No worries. I wish you all the best, honestly. Good club, as I say to friend of the show, Tash. I'm sure very good club, and you've got a lot of potential. So wishing you all the best, guys.
Lovely stuff. That's Nathan from the Rob Ryan Red Pod, who joins us on Charlton Live this evening. Tash went on his show last night, I think it was, so you can check that out as well on their channel. Right, let's look ahead to the game from a Charlton point of view. Tell sat down with Nathan Jones to preview the Wrexham game earlier on today.
How tough the schedule is, and the last few weeks have been no different to that. Lloyd Jones was the latest injury worry coming off at the Hawthorns. How's he specifically, and generally how's the squad?
Well, we'll have to assess Lloyd tomorrow. Generally, the squad's in real good health.
He looked a painful one. Is it the repeat of what he had before with Lloyd?
Yeah, look, he rolled his ankle and stuff. And the coincidence, as we said, it's leading into the Wrexham game. He's always carrying something, which we won't gamble with him, because we gambled with him twice and it didn't pay off in terms of the games that we played at there. So look, we've got a full quarter pretty much, apart from Josh Edwards of defensive competition. So we'll utilise that.
And speaking of that, Lloyd coming off handed Colin Sinchenje his second appearance since signing it, and after the first one as a man of the match performance, he once again played well. You must be delighted that you brought that signing forward.
Yeah, absolutely, and we did it just for that. One, we needed cover because we were, really depleted in the defensive areas. But two, when the opportunity came, then it won't do him any harm having an extra 6 months with us. So that's why we did it, and we're really happy. There's a lot he can learn. He'll get better, but you can see the attributes of why we bought him, and he'll only get better with a little bit more control, with a little bit more composure, and confidence, and strength and fitness, because he's effectively in his pre-season. We're looking forward to that.
2 home games coming up, both against sides promoted with us last season. The first, of course, is Wrexham on Saturday. The reverse fixture was a tough loss to take, I think, given the performance, especially on the day. And we'll need that level of performance again on Saturday because they're flying.
Well, I think we need even better. I mean, they're obviously improved, and we were, when you look at our team, the team we played, and we were quite depleted defensively. We just come off the back of a tough fixture against West Brom. Ironically, it's, the same again. So we want to make sure that our performance levels are better than them, because I'm sure Wrexham will want to do the same. There's nothing in the game. Really wasn't anything in the game. It took a big error, to break the deadlock. But we didn't really impose ourselves. But when you look at the team, the starting 11 and what we had, it will be a different animal this week.
The travelling fans at the Hawthorns and at St Mary's were superb, as they have been all season. It's going to be another packed valley and a great atmosphere on Saturday. And as we approach the final moments of the season and the final months, that could be huge for us, couldn't it, that atmosphere?
Well, absolutely. We keep saying it, so we don't want to be a broken record, but they are. They help. It's a collaboration between everyone at the club, the fans, everyone. You know, we know that, you know, we are fighting for something within a wonderful league. You know, we are new to this league, so we want to make sure that next year we're not as new as we are now. But you know, the fans have been wonderful. They were magnificent. I thank them personally in terms of the Southampton, what they did personally for me at Southampton, and I said they've been wonderful. And again, it's another mouth-watering fixture, and we're really looking forward to it.
There we go, Nathan. Looking ahead to Saturday's home game with Wrexham. Yeah, I mean, some reference to the game at their place, obviously, where Onel Hernandez handled the ball and we got beat 1-0. Nath. We had quite a few half chances in the first half of that. In the second half, we never really got going, and then Onel suddenly put his hand up to ask a question to someone and forgot the ball was there, and it hit him, and that was that. We got beat. It was the start of that run of 5 games without a win. I mean, look, it's going to be a challenge. Wrexham are clearly in good form. We're not necessarily playing the best at all times, albeit having only lost 1 in 6 now. So it's not. We've been in worse form, I guess, but we didn't play well on Tuesday. So how do we attack this one? The forward line, does it change? The midfield, do we get someone in who could play a bit of football at home, or do we have to just try and be hard to beat, you know, and just treat it similar to Southampton away, because we're coming up against a side who are going to threaten to score a lot of goals against us? You know, Wrexham they scored 5 a couple of games ago, obviously scored 2 against Pompey in the week. They scored 2 in the game before that at Bristol City. They're no strangers to finding the back of the net.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll do a couple. Is Cody on loan? I assume he's on loan.
Yeah, so Cody can't play, so we do have to at least change one midfielder.
So I think Cov, ranking Costello, you could put that. I just think, I think you need someone who's going to put their foot on the ball a little bit. So I'd probably get Coventry in there for Cody. I mean, I'd like to see Dykes and Kelman. Dykes, obviously, he's on form, and you can go back to front quickly if you need to, and Kelman can work the channels a lot more efficiently than, say, Dykes or Liebern can. Plus, caveat that with, I think, if you're at home and the impetus and the onus is on you to go and try and win a game, I think if it is 0-0 or it's tight towards the end of the game and you're centre half for Wrexham, and then you see big Miles Liebern and TC coming off getting warmed up, it's not a nice picture to see. I know they're not prolific in this league, but with the pace and the height, I just think it gives it a little bit more balance if you have a big man, little man, so to speak. So I'd like to see that, and yeah, probably Cov to come in. Other than that, obviously depending on Jones, if he's fit or not, obviously I think you're going to have to do that. But that's the only things I probably would change and have a go. You know, I think we've got a bit of, I wouldn't say it's a free hit, but I think it's definitely one where we should try and be on the front foot early doors and try and get ahead in the game.
Yeah. So I had a message from Cabby earlier on Substack, actually. He says, big discussion point for tonight's pod has to be Tyrese Campbell. I've backed him all season. Pace. He's an academy product, but the last few games, something isn't right. His head has gone down. He has no interest and doesn't even want to run. Why on earth is he hugging the left touchline when we have Bell and Chambers on that side? Surely he should play alongside Dykes. Massive issues with this lad. I would be inclined to leave him out the squad and stick Chaz up top. At least he chases down and runs. Interested to hear your thoughts. I mean, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that, Mark. I mean, to put it the other way, I thought without, pretty standard really, but I thought he did a lot of running on Saturday at Southampton. He was our outball and he got us up the pitch a couple of times. Obviously scored against Stoke a couple of weeks ago, but he had that bit of a stinker against, was it QPR? So he's been in and out of form, but I mean, what did you make of what Cabby said there?
Everyone's entitled to an opinion. I don't think his is right, but that's his opinion. I think we maybe put too much pressure ourselves on TC, forgetting, like Tom said earlier, this is the level we've just come into. We know what he can do. We know when he's been marked out of games. And I don't think he's had the opportunity really to open his legs and run at people. And he did give the ball away, which they could have scored from. And you don't know how much that gets in his head and whether he sort of like berates himself and thinks, I don't want to make that again. You would have thought that now we've got a left back and Chambo, as everyone calls him, can play. It would have given Tyrese a bit more freedom going forward. But he just seems to be lost. But what I thought about the game was that we were playing it, and West Brom played in it as well, in a kind of like a 50-yard square box. There seemed to be lots of space which we just couldn't use, and I'd like him to stick, not worry so much about defending and stick on the wing. I talked last week about Colin Powell with no more than 2 foot away from the touchline at all times, and how many goals he provided for everybody. And that's what I'd like to see TC, because he's got the beating of people. We see him beat people, and then when he drives in and hits for curler with his right foot, that's been successful this season. So I would still have him as an impact stub. I wouldn't start him. And I agree with Nathan. I'd go with Kelman up front. I just think he works and Harry's a bit harder, and his movement is just different to Leeburn's. I just think Leeburn is very similar to Dykes, and I agree with Nathan again. If you've got Leeburn and TC warming up, it gives them something else to think about. But we've just got to be more attacking.
It's interesting, but then if TC put in the performance that Kelman put in at Southampton when he came off the bench, I mean, there'd be marches in the street. I mean, so the way TC gets, I don't know, picked apart, because I guess there's so much expectation on him. But yeah, I mean, Kelman had a really bad game, I thought, at Southampton. But he's had other good games. He's had that spell where he scored goals. It's funny how these things. Isaac said, I think TC seems like he has an attitude which winds people up, but he's just a shy kid. We forget how young the likes of him and Leeburn are, and they've never played Championship football. I do agree he's not up to the level at all, though. Rustle says he's awful. He's a League One player at best, and our midfielder League One at best too. We play awful football, have no creativity, and I'm bored of it. Dr. Peculiar would like to see TC much more aggressive and angry. Yeah, Kevin pointed out when he lost the ball in the game, he said Kevin said he couldn't be bothered to chase back after he played the ball back. But Andrew's pointing out he's our only player who could beat defenders. Gary said he's not as good as Paddy Powell. I'll have to take your word on that, Mark and Gary. So unfortunately, I never got to see him play. James reckons he's over scrutinised. Isaac thinks that Kelman doesn't work hard off the ball or press either. Colin Sachenze, I don't think we really spoke about it, actually. Considering he came into the game off, with Lloyd getting injured on Tuesday, Tom, I suspect there's a reasonable chance he's going to be the one starting if Lloyd is out tomorrow on Saturday. But I thought he played well on Tuesday. I thought he started quite well. Obviously, he had that sticky 20 minutes ago or so against Cienza, but I thought he looked good on Tuesday.
I thought he was excellent. Yeah, we talked on the back of the Southampton game about him familiarising himself. He's not played Championship football before. He hasn't played football in this country before, so settling in for sure. And yes, it was a rocky spell at the start of that game, but he's up against one of the best attacking players in the league, certainly on form at the moment. Rode that storm, got better and better, undeservedly, man of the match, but definitely improved. And as you say, when I saw Lloyd go down and we knew he was coming off, I was worried because West Brom were playing far better than us, and I thought, this is just what we need. He's the one player that we trust in that back line. Well, that's slightly unfair. I think Amari Bell's done well as well, and Ramsey's had good games, but certainly when Lloyd Jones isn't there, we notice it. But the biggest credit I can pay Collins is we didn't really notice it on Tuesday night. He was almost like for like, and he's not Lloyd Jones yet, but he's, if we can get him to that level as well, and we've got those two and Amari Bell there, then that defence looks very, very strong, doesn't it? So yeah, I was very impressed with him. Like you, I imagine he'll be the one to take that place. Why not? He's played almost a full game at Southampton and then come in. We were worried about him going off, weren't we? But it must have just been tiredness and lack of match fitness when he came off at Southampton. So yeah, I've been very impressed with him. As I say, I want to see him keep improving for sure. But there's clearly a very good player in there. I wonder if he can be a bit of a goal threat up the other end as well, because he's tall and hopefully strong. So yeah, he's a good option to put in. Of course, I'd like Lloyd Jones to be fit, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. But Colin Sachenze can definitely fit in there for sure. And yeah, I'm not worried about that like I would have been if he wasn't around. And you're chucking in a Burke who's obviously not played for a long time and is injury prone, or any of the other players that we've got on the bench, a Maka or something. I feel a lot more confident putting Collins in there.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, a couple of people saying Burke could be about as well, which we'll see how that plays out. Right, just before we end, Nath, Richard Corley exclusive earlier on today. No Mikel Antonio coming in. As soon as you saw that photo of him out in Qatar, it was like, well, this probably isn't going to happen then, because it's famously the Qataris have got a couple of quid. So if he doesn't want to be here, he doesn't want to be here. I guess that's the end of that now. Disappointed with that one, or it's just the way that the cookie crumbles?
Nah, it is what it is. Not really that bothered. I mean, if he came in, it would have been a little bit of a hoo-ha till the end of the year, but I can't say I'm going to lose any sleep over it. But, good luck to him getting the money. I wouldn't be turning that down if I was him either.
Excellent. Well, there we go. Well, hopefully we won't lose Nathan to Charlton Qatari Supporters Club live before the weekend, but we'll find out in due course. Right, we're going to leave it there. We've gone over time. Massive thanks to everyone who's joined us on this week's big match preview as we look back at the point at West Brom and ahead to Saturday's home game with Wrexham. Don't forget to subscribe to our pod on YouTube and anywhere else where you see us as well, and all the podcast apps, so you never miss another episode. Check out our merch store as well, charltonlive.etsy.com, if you want your Charlton Live mug. For now, though, Nathan, Mark, and Tom, always a pleasure.
Cheers, gents.
You're welcome.
Lovely, jubbly. I'm Louis Mendes. This has been Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. Thanks for your time this evening. We'll see you again on Sunday morning.
Charlton Live.